Good morning, everyone. So today we will discuss the chapter for helicopter components, section, and systems. Uh, for this chapter, uh, it has a subpart which is number one is instruction, number two airframe, number three fuselage, four main rotor system, five is wash plate assembly, six freewheeling unit, 7 anti-torque system, 8 engines, and last is transmission system. So first is introduction. So this chapter discusses the component sections and systems found on the most modern helicopters. Helicopters come in a varieties of sizes and shapes but must share the same major components. And the chapter introduces the major components, sections of the helicopter, and the system that correlate with each. Knowing how the components and system work on the helicopter enables the pilot to more easily recognize malfunctions and possible emergency situation, and understanding the relationship of these systems allows the pilot to make an informed decision and take the appropriate corrective action should a problem arise. So this chapter will discuss the component sections systems that found in helicopter. And for the airframe or the fundamental structure of a helicopter can be made of metal, wood, composite materials, and some combination of the two. So in figure 4.1-1, the major components of helicopter are airframe, fuselage, landing gear, power plant, transmission, main rotor system, and tail rotor system. So as you can see in this figure, the airframe is here, the fuselage, main rotor system, and the landing gear. So the fuselage, the outer core of the airframe, is an aircraft main body section that houses the cabin that holds the crew, passengers, and cargo. Helicopter cabins have a variety of seating arrangements. Most have the pilot seated on the right side, although there are some with the pilot seated on the left side or center. The fuselage also houses the engine, the transmission, avionics, flight controls, and the power plant. So, fuselage is the outer core of the airframe. It is the main body section of the houses of helicopter, and the fuselage has a houses the engine, transmission, avionics, flight controls, and the power plant. So next is main rotor system. So the rotor system is the rotating part of the helicopter which generates lifts, and it consists of mast, hub, rotor blades. And there are three basic classification of main rotor system, which is semi-rigid, rigid, or fully unarticulated. So, rotor system is uh, ito ay makikita sa pinakamataas na ito yung pinaka-blade. Ito yung blade ng helicopter. And um, makikita dito sa figure 4-1. So, it consists of mast, hub, and rotor blade. So, for the classification of main rotor systems will be discussed by John Yuri Villasis.
So for the first classification of main rotor systems, so the first is semi-rigid rotor system. So a semi-rigid rotor system is usually composed of two blades that are rigidly mounted to the main rotor hub. And this main rotor hub is free to tilt with respect to the main rotor shaft on what is known as a tethering or flapping hinge. This allows the blades to flap together as a unit. Also, the semi-rigid rotor is capable of feathering, which means that the pitch angle of the blade can change. This is made possible by the feathering hinge. So the next classification is the rigid rotor system. So the rigid rotor system is mechanically simple but structurally complex. This is due to the operating loads that must be absorbed in bending rather than through hinges. In this system, the blade roots are rigidly attached to the rotor hub, and the rigid rotor systems tend to behave like fully articulated systems through aerodynamics but lacking flapping or lead lag hinges. Instead, the blades accommodate these motions by bending, and they cannot overlap or flap or lead and lag, but they can be feathered. So next is the fully articulated rotor system. So for fully articulated rotor systems, each blade is allowed to move back and forth, up and down, and to rotate about the pitch axis of the rotor. Next is tandem rotor. So tandem rotor, sometimes referred to as dual rotor, have two large horizontal rotor assemblies. The first is a twin rotor system, where instead of one main assembly and a smaller tail rotor, tandem rotor helicopters use counter-rotating rotors with each canceling out the other's torque. Counter-rotating rotor blades will not collide with and destroy each other if they flex into the rotor's pathway. This configuration also has the advantage of being able to hold more weight with shorter blades since there are two sets. Also, all the power from the engines can be used for lift, whereas a single rotor helicopter uses power to counter the torque.
So other classifications of main rotor system. First is coaxial rotors. Coaxial rotors is oh so coaxial rotor system is a pair of rotors mounted on the same shaft but turning in opposite directions. This design eliminates the need for a tail rotor or other anti-torque mechanisms. And since the blades turn in opposite directions, the effects of the symmetry of lift are avoided. The main advantage of coaxial rotors is the increased mechanical complexity of the rotor system. Numerous Russian helicopters, such as the Kaman Ka-31 and Ka-50, along with the Sikorsky Experimental X-2, use a coaxial rotor design. Next is the intermeshing rotors. So, an intermeshing rotor system is a set of turning, two rotors turning in the opposite directions, with each rotor mast mounted on the helicopter with a slight angle. So the blades intermesh without colliding. This design also eliminates the need for an anti-torque system, which provides more engine power for lift. However, neither rotor lifts directly vertical, which reduces each rotor's efficiency. The Kaman HH-43, which was used by the USAF in a firefighting role, and the Kaman K-Max are examples of an intermeshing rotor system. So, next is the swash plate assembly. So the purpose of the swash plate is to convert stationary control inputs from the pilot into rotating inputs, which can be connected to the rotor blades or control surfaces. It consists of two main parts: stationary swash plate and rotating swash plate. First is the stationary swash plate. It is mounted around the main rotor mast and connected to the cyclic and collective controls by a series of push rods. It is restrained from rotating by an anti-drive link but can tilt in all directions and move vertically. While the rotating swash plates is mounted to the stationary swash plate by means of a uniball sleeve. It is connected to the mast by drive links and must rotate in constant relationship with the main rotor mast. Next is freewheeling unit. Uh, Since lift in a helicopter is provided by rotating airfoils, these airfoils must be free to rotate if the engine fails. The freewheeling unit automatically uh, disengages the engine from the main rotor when engine revolutions per minute or RPM is less than main rotor RPM. So this allows the main rotor and tail rotor to continue turning at normal in-flight speeds. The most common freewheeling unit assembly consists of a one-way sprung clutch located between the engine and main rotor transmission. So this is usually in the upper pulley in a piston helicopter or mounted on the accessory gearbox in a turbine helicopter.
And now the anti-torque drive system. The anti-torque drive system consists of an anti-torque drive shaft and an anti-torque gearbox mounted at the end of the tail boom. As the propeller spins, it creates a twisting force called torque. If there's nothing to balance out this twisting force, the helicopter would start spinning in the opposite direction. Anti-torque drive systems are like a special counter-rotating fan that cancels out the spinning force, helping the helicopter stay steady in the air. And now let's go to the engines. There are many types of engines, and next, some of these are the reciprocating engine. Reciprocating engines, also called piston engines, are generally used in small helicopters. This is a type of heat engine that converts the energy from burning fuel into mechanical energy through the reciprocating motions of the pistons. In simpler terms, it's an engine where pistons move back and forth inside cylinders. This motion is used to generate power, commonly found in internal combustion engines used in aircrafts. Now next, the turbine engines. Turbine engines are more powerful and are used in a wide variety of helicopters. They produce a tremendous amount of power for their size but are generally more expensive to operate. When the fuel burns inside, it creates hot gases that spin a set of blades inside the engine. These spinning blades are connected to a shaft, which can be used to do useful things like propel an airplane or generate electricity. So a turbine engine is basically a fancy way to turn fuel into spinning power. And next, the compressor. The compressor may consist of an axial compressor, a centrifugal compressor, or combination of two. An axial compressor consists of two main elements, the rotor and the stator. The rotor consists of a number of blades fixed on a rotating spindle and resembles a fan. As the rotor turns, air is drawn inward, while a centrifugal compressor consists of an impeller, diffuser, and a manifold. When we say compressor, it takes a it takes in air and squeezes it, making it more compact and increasing its pressure. This compressed air is then used in things like turbine engines to help generate power. So a compressor is basically a machine that squeezes air to make it really powerful.
There you go. So for the combustion chamber, the combustion chamber in helicopters is a vital component where fuel and air mix ignite, and it releases energy to power the engine. Its purpose is to efficiently contain and control the combustion process, generating high temperature gases that drive the rotor system. Designed for optimal fuel efficiency and performance, the combustion chamber also facilitates heat transfer to engine components and helps in emission control, ensuring smooth and reliable operation of the helicopter. Next is the turbine. In helicopter, the turbine plays a crucial role in converting the energy from the combustion process into mechanical power to drive the rotor system. The turbine typically consists of two main sections, which is the N1 or NG, and the other one is the power turbine. So for the first section is the N1 or NG turbine. This section is responsible for driving the compressor that supplies air to the combustion chamber. It maintains optimal airflow and pressure for combustion, ensuring efficient engine operation. The N1 or NG turbine is usually connected via shaft and rotates at high speeds to drive the compressor blades. Next is the power turbine. It is the section of the turbine that directly drives the helicopter's rotor system. It receives the high-temperature gases from the combustion chamber and uses their energy to rotate the output shaft, which is connected to the helicopter's transmission system. As the power turbine spins, it generates the torque necessary to turn the rotor blades and lift the helicopter into the air. Together, these turbine components form the heart of the helicopter's engine, efficiently harnessing the energy. Next is the accessory gearboxes. In helicopters, accessory gearboxes are very essential components. It transport power from the main rotor or engine to various auxiliary systems that typically consists of gears and shaft enclosed within a protective casing. These gearboxes drive critical accessories such as the tail rotor, hydraulic pumps, generators, and other necessary system for flight and operation. The accessory gearbox ensures that this auxiliary system receive the appropriate power and operate reliably throughout the helicopter's flight by distributing power efficiently. It contributes to the overall performance, safety, and functionality of the aircraft. Next is the transmission system. The transmission system in helicopters is a complex assembly responsible for transferring power from the engine to the main and tail rotors while allowing for control and maneuverability. Its main components includes the main rotor transmission, tail rotor drive system, clutch, freewheeling unit. So the main rotor transmission receives power from the engine and transfers it to the main rotor shaft. It adjusts the speed and torque of the engine to drive the main rotor at the required RPM for lift and control. The tail rotor drive is it is connected to the main rotor transmission. It is that the tail rotor drive system transfer power from the engine to the tail rotor. This system controls the helicopter's yaw by providing thrust opposite to the torque generated by the main rotor. Next component is the clutch. The clutch is a vital component that allows for the selective engagement and disengagement of the engine from the transmission system. It enables the pilot to start the engine without immediately engaging the rotor system and provides a means to isolate the engine from the transmission in case of emergency or maintenance. Lastly is the freewheeling unit. This is also known as a one-way clutch. The freewheeling unit allows the main rotor to continue spinning even if the engine fails or is decoupled from the transmission. This critical safety feature ensures that helicopter can perform auto-rotation, enabling a controlled descent in the event of engine failure. Next is the main throttle transmission. In helicopter, it is a crucial component. It is responsible for transmitting power from the engine to the main rotor assembly. It consists of a complex arrangement of gears, shaft, and bearing housed within a sturdy casing. The main rotor transmission adjusts the torque and speed of the engine to drive the main rotor at the required RPM for lift and control. Overall, the main rotor transmission plays a vital role in the safe and efficient flight of helicopters, providing the necessary power to enable lift, maneuverability, and stability in various occasions or
Dual tachometers. Most helicopters use a dual needle tachometer or a vertical scale instrument to show both engine and rotor RPM, or a percentage of engine and rotor RPM. This indicator is used during clutch engagement to monitor rotor acceleration and in auto rotation to maintain RPM within prescribed rate limits. It is vital to understand that rotor RPM is paramount. It is important, and that engine RPM monitoring is secondary. If rotor tachometer fails, rotor RPM can be inferred from engine RPM due to fixed ratio. Accidents can occur if pilots initiate auto rotation based on rotor RPM tachometer failure while the engine is still operational. As you can see in figure 4 to 18, which are the dual tachometer gauges, each with two needles labeled T for turbine and R for rotor. Normal operation is indicated when needles are superimposed. Top left gauge displays separate numerical arcs for engine and rotor RPM. Top right gauge has independent needles representing engine and rotor parameters. In normal condition, when the rotor is coupled to the engine, both needles move together in the same direction. So, if there is a sudden loss in engine power, the needles split, showing that the engine and the rotor are no longer coupled as the clutch has disconnected. So, as you can see from the figure 4 to 19, a split or divided needle condition is a result of a sudden loss of engine power. Many newer aircraft have what is referred to as a glass cockpit, meaning the instrumentation is digital and displayed. For the structural design. So the main rotor transmission in helicopters with horizontally mounted engines changes rotation axis from horizontal engine axis to vertical rotor shaft. This differs from airplanes, which have their propellers mounted directly to the crankshaft or to a shaft that is geared to the crankshaft, as seen in the figure 4 to 20 on the right side of the presentation. Main rotor RPM maintenance is crucial for sufficient lift during flight. Understanding that tachometer information is essential to ensure rotor RPM to remain within the normal operating limits. Allowing rotor RPM to drop below normal limits can lead to a catastrophic outcome. For the clutch, in conventional airplanes, the engine and propeller are permanently connected, unlike in helicopters. Due to the greater weight of a helicopter rotor compared to the power of the engine, a clutch is necessary. Clutch disengages the motor from the engine during starter engagement to avoid excessive load. Engine can start separately and gradually pick up the load of the rotor through the clutch. Reciprocating and fixed turbine engines require clutches for engine start, as air or windmilling starts are not possible. Piston-powered helicopters typically feature manual engagement of the clutch, often controlled by cockpit-mounted switches. So as you can see from the on the right side of the PowerPoint is the figure 4 to 20, the main rotor transmission, which reduces the engine output RPM to optimum rotor RPM. So on the top part is the main rotor. The middle one is the main transmission, which is where the anti-torque rotor is connected, and below is the gearbox, which is connected to the engine. Belt drive clutch. Some helicopters employ a belt drive system to transfer power from the engine to the transmission. Components of a belt drive include the lower and upper pulleys, belts, and mechanism for belt tension, which is shown in the figure 4 to 21 idler or manual clutch. Clutches are utilized in some aircraft for starting, enabling engine start without engaging the transmission. The advantage of these clutch systems includes minimal throttle application during startup and vibration isolation. Tension on belts can gradually increase after engine start until rotor and engine tachometer needles are synchronized. Full engagement of the clutch occurs when rotor and engine are synchronized. Proper throttle control is crucial to prevent engine overspeed when the clutch is disengaged. For the centrifugal clutch, this centrifugal clutch comprises an inner assembly connected to the engine drive shafts and an outer drum attached to the transmission input shaft. At low engine speeds, the clutch shoes remain disengaged due to the springs. Increasing the engine speed causes centrifugal force, pushing clutch shoes outward to engage with the outer drum. The rotor speed increases gradually as friction builds between the clutch and shoes and transmission drum. Synchronization between engine and rotor indicated when rotor tachymeter needle aligns with the engine tachymeter needle. So as you can see here in the first part, it is where the both needles meet each other. It is where the synchronization between the engine and the rotor is indicated. So full clutch engagement occurs when needles are superimposed, indicating no further slippage. So last is the turbine engine engages clutch through centrifugal force, gradually turning main rotor system unless a rotor brake is employed.
That's all for our chapter 4. So thank you for listening. And this is group 4. Leader Felicer Emmanuel B. And members is uh, Arana, Iwara, Toledo, Villalobos, and Villasis. Thank you.